webinar series. Today we have with us Professor Hitendra Patel, who teaches at Ravindra Bharati University, Calcutta, in the Department of History. I warmly welcome Professor Patel. History is written on the basis of a variety of sources. Some of these sources are traditional, some are non-traditional. Literature, especially novels and stories, can provide a very, very important source of supplementary historical material and sometimes main historical material for a certain kind of history. Professor Hitendra Patel has worked extensively on the history of literature and on the history as it is reflected in literature of modern India. So today he is going to speak to us on the political history of India during a crucial period 1920 to 1948 as it is reflected in certain political novels, as he calls them, written during the period. There are certain diversions and digressions from the traditional history which he says are noticed when we come to history as it is reflected in the novels of the period, especially in relation to in relation to the role of Gandhi and of non-violence in the freedom struggle during the period. So without further delay now, I would like to invite Professor Patel to start his presentation. Professor Patel.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak on a subject on which I have always felt some kind of problem in negotiating with my fellow historians. And I believe that my historian friends have legitimate doubts because our community has not taken literature very seriously, at least as far as history, source of history writing is concerned. And I have been struggling to convince my friends that in order to widen the horizon of sources for a very important period of our modern history, we need to go towards what I call political novels. And in this presentation, I would like to first, I would like to divide my presentation into two parts. In the first part, I will have to say a few words on why I have chosen uh, political novels as source of history, and then I will move on to some chosen political novels on the basis of which I try to say something. And this work is going on. Nehru Memorial Library had given me an opportunity, and I'm grateful to Nehru Memorial Library for giving me an opportunity. And thereafter, my work is continuing. First of all, I would say that this period, which is called the period of Gandhi, or the period in which national movement captured the imagination of Indian people, led Indian people to a kind of political emancipation in 1947, and thereafter a new era began in Indian history. So the beginning of national movement and the achievement of independence is a very significant chapter of our history. And in this period, what happened? What happened is a story which can be told with different frames. And I would like to draw your attention to some of the difficulties people have faced. first and foremost is the difficulty of seeing this entire political period with one frame, which I call Indian ideology frame. I am borrowing this term from Perry Anderson and others who believe that there has existed what is called Indian ideology, which has guided the Indian historians and Indian political leadership to see the developments in a particular frame. And that is where I think we should need to move towards some new directions and some new sources. This is because of certain reasons. I would not elaborate on that. But before entering into the discussion and creating space for a dialogue, I would like to humbly suggest before you that there can be at least three frames through which this political history of India of this period can be written. For my convenience, I have called these frames as Congress frame or Gandhi Nehru frame, and this frame is very important, and obviously this was most dominant. But there was another frame which nobody really talked about as far as historians are concerned, and that is the frame of Hindu nationalists, which I call Savarkar frame. And the third frame is M.N. Roy frame. So these are the three frames which have seen this political development of India, transformations, movements, popular mobilization, and all that, along three lines. There are convergences. There are certain kind of issues on which they came together. But broadly speaking, these three frames have some peculiarities about them, and they saw the entire process very differently. So this is the starting point of my discussion. And if I go along and then I bring some other issues, obviously I would not have the time to talk about the details of that. I'm basically trying to argue why I move towards political novels. I found out that there are at least three problematics. There are three issues on which there are silences, and those silences are extremely important. Yesterday, I was listening a discussion on Iqbal, and I was trying to understand how Iqbal moved from one position to another position. And that was very significant for me. And I found out that from 1919 to 1947, there were crucial points. And on those points, some remarkable changes had taken place. And why those things happened have been answered by historians, but there are some omissions, and those omissions are to be noted. This is a time when we have to talk about some of the issues, to bring into discussion some of the things which we avoided in earlier times. Number one issue was how this coming of Gandhi made an outside person so important in a very quick time. Gandhi became politically very significant, and he had reasons to be, because he started a movement and he brought new dimension to Indian politics is something which we all are familiar with. But what are other factors which contributed to his rise? All of us are familiar with Judith Brown thesis and all that, in which uh, that historian had tried to argue that it had something to do with some people or some sections of people who wanted Gandhi to be coming to the center stage of Indian politics, and they helped him to become the number one leader. I would not go in towards that, but I would like to draw your attention to some of the things which political novelists or the writers who were not historians have brought on the table. There is one Hindi writer, some of you might have heard about him, and his name was Chatur Sen Shastri. He had written about that period, and incidentally, he was there when Tilak was on deathbed. And I remember in that book, he talks about the discomfort of Tilak, this discomfort of Tilak on this rise of Gandhi. And he says in his book that he was so uncomfortable on his deathbed that whenever somebody talked about Gandhi and his politics, he became very restless, and he was completely in disapproval of what Gandhi was doing at that time. So this caught my attention. Why Tilak was so uncomfortable with Gandhi's politics and what he was trying to do? And you can add to many great leaders' discomfort with Gandhi's politics. What Gandhi was trying to do is something on which we have to rethink. And without going further, I would just try to underline one factor which is part of the story which another novelist, Yashpal, has brought in his novel, political novel, Meri Teri Uski Baat. In that book, he has talked about the post First World War scenario. All historians would agree that post First World War there was discontentment. There were people who were expecting good things from the government, and government was trying to crush them, crush any kind of protest. And in that situation, entire country was boiling, so to say. Entire country was trying to protest against the government. And at that point of time, Gandhi emerged as the leader. And that Gandhi was a radical Gandhi. He was saying things which he never said in the next 20 years. So the point is, from 1919 to 1922, at least 1921, this is the period when Gandhi became the leader, and this is the period when Gandhi really became the unquestionable leader of Indian national movement. At this point, Gandhi brought on the table something which was extraordinary. And here, I need to draw your attention to the factor which he brought in. And Khilafat movement, we have experts available here who have dealt with this issue, why Khilafat movement started and how far Gandhi was responsible for that. And Gandhi became the leader. I have reasons to believe, although I would not elaborate on that because I have to move ahead, that Gandhi could become the most powerful leader of India because he was helped by Muslim leadership. And this is a very crucial factor. Why and how these things happened is something which we can talk about later. But this Muslim factor, if I may use that word, was very crucial. And this Muslim factor brought in what another political novelist has called crowd factor. Whoever comes to Gandhi's path becomes a target for a new and very volatile crowd. And this crowd was not tolerating anybody who was there to oppose Gandhi. So this may sound a bit ironical, but Gandhi brought in what is called crowd factor in Indian politics. Bringing people into politics, we often talk about when we talk about Gandhi, but he also brought in what is called crowd factor in political assemblies. And who can forget the humiliation inflicted on senior leader, nationalist leader, Muhammad Ali Jinnah in Congress sessions? Who can forget that? People have talked about it, and there are many issues. Anyway, in fact, if I may crudely sum up, whoever tried to counter Gandhi of that time got marginalized. And this is something on which we need to rethink how it was possible. Even Motilal Nehru, Chittaranjan Das, and I've already talked about discomfort of Tilak, these great leaders had been unable to understand how to deal with Gandhi. And at that point of time, I'm talking about Motilal Nehru, he was unable to make sense of what Gandhi was trying to do. So in this entire process, all either got marginalized or they had to come into terms with Gandhi. And here I would also like to bring in Madan Mohan Malaviya. Many of us have forgotten that when Gandhi's name was floated as a leader, and this came in a very complicated process, and there was a debate going on about the resolution over the reform, whether Congress should go with the reform or not. And at that point of time, Malaviya and Jinnah supported Gandhi, and at that time, Gandhi was reluctant to come into the forefront. He had waited in the wings for some time. So Gandhi was, at that time, in a way helped by Jinnah to become a central figure in Congress session at that time, when he came up with a resolution which was in a way a middle path, treading on the middle path. And at that time, Jallianwala Bagh massacre had taken place, and there was a huge debate going on what to do and what not to do. And in that scenario, Gandhi was being helped by some of the leaders, and among those leaders, Jinnah was also there. But thereafter, what happened, and that is there lies a great story. I cannot go into the details, but the stories, the summary of that story is that ultimately, in Congress session of Calcutta, Gandhi got the power, the authority to frame a new constitution, or in a way redesign the Congress and its leadership with a new constitution. And at that crucial time, even Chittaranjan Das sided with Gandhi. This is a story many historians have told. Now, up to this point, I don't have much to offer besides suggesting to you that we need to re-examine the details of that process. But beyond that, there is something which I may bring into the on the table. You know the story of Khilafat movement, and that Khilafat movement has two parts. One in which Allahu Akbar and Sat Sri Akal and Hindu slogans were brought together under the rubric under the umbrella of national movement, and we fought against the British. And for a considerable time period, there was something in the air that India is no longer going to tolerate the British rule. But thereafter, what happened? Thereafter, something extraordinary happened. Something very extraordinary happened. The movement fizzled out. Some of the things Indian Congress leadership could not understand or could not control. I agree. But thereafter, what happened? This movement fizzled out, and there was a beginning of a new phase in which Hindu-Muslim political rivalry began. And this began in such a way that many historians even can agree on that point, that the seeds of partition were sown in those days. And here, many historians have blamed Gandhi to bring religion into the politics in a very dangerous manner. And in some of the on some points, even Jinnah's criticism of Gandhi of bringing this crowd factor and the religion into the politics could be dangerous. And remember, even Motilal Nehru in earlier phase had been very critical of Gandhi. But Gandhi was a success, and Gandhi was a success story till Khilafat movement fizzled out. Now, this is a story which is crucial for any historian. Anybody who wants to understand why Hindus and Muslims who had lived for centuries, what had happened between 1920 and 1940, what had happened that Muslims are no longer ready to live with Hindus in a nation. What had happened? Was something wrong in the national movement, or was there any kind of conspiracy which was hedged by Muslim communal leaders or Hindu communal leaders or something of that sort? A point could be that if we closely examine the entire process, and there is where Hindu and Hindi novelists or political novelists have some stories to tell. We have a political novelist, Bhagwati Charan Verma, who has written a remarkable book, very remarkable book, Bhule Bisre Chitra. Another political novel he wrote was Seedhi Sachi Baatein. If you read those two novels, you will find some clues in those novels. One interesting clue is that Muslims were fighting during the Khilafat movement primarily with agenda which had nothing to do with the Hindus of the regions where Khilafat movement was gaining ground. Now, one can argue with that. One can cite many examples where Hindus and Muslims were together. They were in the same rally, and they were saying things which could be seen as a common space where Hindus and Muslims had been together fighting with the British and all that. This is possible. But what is interesting and what makes me sad, and in fact, I was amused by one thing, that in one novel I found that somebody who was a congressman, sincere congressman, was telling the fellow Congress supporter, have you heard the speech of Muhammad Ali? It's a communal uh, speech. Now I checked with the records and I found that in 1923 in Kakinada, Congress presidential speech, Muhammad Ali had delivered the presidential speech. Now I consulted that speech and it has been documented by an eminent historian of communalism of India. And I read the entire speech and I found nothing. It's a very long speech, but I found nothing in that speech which could suggest that it was a communal speech. But in that novel, I found that the congressman was referring that it is a communal speech. Then I tried to go into that. And then I found a text, a text in which the entire speech had been reproduced. And that speech is even now available on the net. It was published in 1923, and that speech I could find very recently. In that speech, I found 3 paragraphs which were very dangerous paragraphs, in which Muhammad Ali had talked about the right of conversion of depressed classes to Islam. And that is a very dangerous kind of statement. At least that could be seen as very dangerous from both people who believe that Islam could be very dangerous for Islam. Bringing Islam into the politics could be dangerous. Now, those 3 paragraphs were not there in the speech which had been reproduced by an eminent historian, one of the greatest historians on communalism in modern India, and that surprised me a lot. Why this had been edited out? And this editing out is something which I object to. The stories, I mean, historians' job is not to hide uncomfortable facts. Historians' job is to come up with the facts. Some of them could be uncomfortable, and historian can put a footnote over there and to rationalize things. But this kind of omission was deliberate, and there is something on which we can raise our objections. Now, this is something I have brought in just to raise a point about certain things which actually happened and which are there in the novels, but somehow it had been edited out from the historical narratives. At least those parts, those historical narratives where these things have been debated intensely. Now, you may say that here or there, some people might have talked about it, and some people had registered these things also. But I'd like to bring in an analogy. You all know.
Ji, if I may just interrupt, kindly start concluding. We have 5 more minutes.
This is 3:32.
Ji,
I
ji.
think. Okay. So अब मैं थोड़ा सा जल्दी मैं करूंगा. मैं कोशिश करता हूं कि एक जो बात है जो मैं कहना चाहता था सबसे अंत में, वो ये कि ये जो कहानी है, लेट मी स्पीक इन हिंदी, माय लैंग्वेज, जिसमें कि संक्षिप्त होकर के मैं ज्यादा बेहतर तरीके से आपके समय का ख्याल रख पाऊंगा. ये जो कहानी है, इस कहानी को 3 भागों में बांटा जा सकता है. फ्रॉम 19 जिसको मैं 1919 to 22 कह रहा हूं. In between these 3 years many things had happened. Then another story is unfolding in between 1934 and 39. What had happened during that period, 1939 to 33, 34 to 39. इस दौरान एक बड़ी लंबी कहानी है, and that story can only be told if we remember that Gandhi had withdrawn from Congress in a way, and there was an intense struggle going on to control Congress. और ये जो कांग्रेस के ऊपर नियंत्रण का जो खेल चल रहा था, उस खेल में मुझे जो नॉवेल में मिला, मेरी तेरी उसकी बात में, सीधी सच्ची बातें में, और अमृतलाल नागर का एक बहुत ही रिमार्केबल उपन्यास है करवट, करवट नहीं, पीढ़ियां, जनरेशंस, पीढ़ियां में भी इसके उल्लेख है कि ये जो डिबेट है, ये जो कांग्रेस के भीतर डिबेट चल रही है, उस डिबेट की असलियत क्या थी। उस डिबेट में गांधी डिफेंसिव होते जा रहे हैं और गांधीवादी लोग बहुत ही बुरी अवस्था में चले जा रहे हैं। लेकिन एक जबरदस्त किस्म का मैनिपुलेशन होता है और कुछ गलतियां होती हैं जो गांधी का विरोध कर रहे थे, और अंततः पूरी कमान गांधी के पक्ष के लोगों के पास चली जाती है, और ये कमान उनके पास जाती है और वहीं से गांधी का पतन भी शुरू होता है। यहां मैं अपनी बात थोड़ी जोड़ रहा हूं क्योंकि मुझे अगली बात कहनी है। जो लोग ये समझते हैं कि गांधी ने पूरे गांधी युग पर अपना प्रभाव बनाए रखा, उसको मैं कॉन्टेस्ट करना चाहता हूं ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ दीज पॉलिटिकल नॉवेल्स एंड इट्स डिटेल्स। और उन्हें मैं सजेस्ट करना चाहता हूं ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ a close reading of these political novels that Gandhi got clueless after 1939. Gandhi became less and less important after 1939. ये थोड़ा आश्चर्यजनक लग सकता है, लेकिन this is the story which I'm working on, and my source for this story are these novels. And interesting in that, I would like also to bring in another novelist who represents Hindu nationalist perspective. He's not a great novelist, but he's a very remarkable political novelist, and that is Guru Dutt. Guru Dutt is a great source for writing political history of that period. Which may sound ridiculous to many of my friends, and they always find that how could somebody like me can give so much attention to third grade or second rate novelist Guru Dutt. But I bet, and I can say to you that Guru Dutt has put finger on those very sensitive zones about which we historians have tended to ignore. हमने उनको छोड़ के रखा है। वो ऐसी बातें अपने उपन्यास, उन्होंने 5 उपन्यास लिखे हैं, और ध्यान रखिएगा ये उपन्यास 40s में लिखे गए थे, और जिस वक्त पार्टीशन नहीं हुआ था, उस वक्त गुरुदत्त ने वो बातें लिखी थी जिन बातों को लेकर के हिंदू महासभा के लोग सभाएं करते थे और लोगों को समझाने की कोशिश करते थे। 1939-40 के बाद मुस्लिम लीग का जो मूवमेंट जोरदार होता है, उसके बारे में भी यशपाल ने लिखा है, और भगवती चंद्र वर्मा ने लिखा है, और लोगों ने भी लिखा है, इतिहासकारों ने भी खूब लिखा है। लेकिन जो नहीं लिखा गया है, जिसकी तरफ ध्यान दिलाने के लिए मुझे चेक करना पड़ा कि क्या ये सही कह रहे हैं गुरुदत्त क्या ये सही कह रहे हैं, तो मैंने देखा कि श्यामा प्रसाद मुखर्जी का एक वक्तव्य है 1943 में, उन्होंने अमृतसर में एक भाषण दिया है, और वो भाषण कितना रिमार्केबल है उसका एक उदाहरण मैं आपके सामने रखना चाहूंगा। वो उसमें कहते हैं कि जब विश्व युद्ध शुरू हुआ था तो हिंदुओं की संख्या सेना में 1/3 से भी कम थी, लेकिन सावरकर और अन्य लोगों के द्वारा जो कैंपेन चलाया गया कि हिंदुओं को सैन्यकरण के लिए तैयार होना चाहिए और ज्यादा से ज्यादा संख्या में सेना में भर्ती होना चाहिए, और सेना में इस भर्ती के अभियान के कारण 1943 में ये कह रहे हैं श्यामा प्रसाद मुखर्जी, और मुझे नहीं लगता है कि ये फैक्चुअली रॉन्ग होगा, कि 3/4 के करीब जो है वो हिंदुओं की संख्या हो चुकी है सेना में। तो अगर कोई सेना पर आधारित हिंदू मुसलमान की लड़ाई होती है तो उसमें मुसलमानों की तरफ से संख्या कम होगी और मुसलमान लोग जो हैं हिंदुओं के मुकाबले कमजोर हो जाएंगे। यह बात 4 सालों में हुई है। अगर ये 39 में हुई होती तो मुसलमानों की संख्या सेना में ज्यादा थी। ये एक ऐसा तथ्य है, एक बात आई है जो गुरुदत्त के उपन्यास में आई है कि पूरे देश में हम लोगों को ऐसी एक संस्था बनानी चाहिए जिस संस्था से, जो संस्था ये जो इनएविटेबल है, हिंदू मुसलमान की लड़ाई जो है, ये लोग देश को बांटने जा रहे हैं, वो युद्ध होगा, गृह युद्ध होगा, और उसमें जिसके पास सैनिक अधिक होंगे वही लोग अधिकारी होंगे शासन करने के, वरना देश को टुकड़े कर दिया जाएगा, देश के साथ देश की हत्या की जाएगी और ये लोग अपना पाकिस्तान बनाएंगे। तो ये जो कहानी है 1/3 से 3/4 होने की, ये कहानी इतिहास के किस अंश में छुपाई गई है या कहां इसको रखा गया है, ये भी एक ध्यान देने वाली बात। जब मैं ये बात कहता हूं किसी को तो उसको ये लगता है कि आई एम making a claim which is not historical, but this is a historical fact. This is historical. I mean, if somebody has to come up with and argue that Shyama Prasad Mukherjee was making a false claim, is something which has to be contested. But so far, I have not seen anything like that. And in that very speech, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee is saying that ये दीवार स्वप्न है पाकिस्तान का बनना। अब मैं अपने अंतिम बात की तरफ आऊंगा, जो मैं, समय का अभाव है, मुझे कहा गया है खत्म करने के लिए, तो मैं अंतिम बात की तरफ, जो एक मिथ गढ़ा गया है लोगों में कि ये जो 1942 का जो आंदोलन है, उस 42 के आंदोलन की असलियत क्या है? क्या वो गांधीवादियों का आंदोलन था या कि कुछ और था? सारे इतिहास के अध्ययन के आधार पर मैं ये सोचता रहा था कि यह गांधीवादियों का आंदोलन था और ये गांधी का जो नारा था उसी के कारण ये आंदोलन चला था और इसमें ज्यादा कुछ बोलने का नहीं है, ये कांग्रेस का ही आंदोलन था। लेकिन मैंने देखा, और ये बहुत अपने आप हिस्टोरियन फ्रेंड्स को मैं विनीत अनुरोध करता हूं, मुझे इस धृष्टता के लिए क्षमा किया जाए, लेकिन मैं अपने आप को क्वालिफाई करना चाहूंगा। मैं समझता हूं कि गांधी और सुभाष के जो द्वंद्व थे, उस द्वंद्व से 1942 की कहानी को जोड़ना चाहिए। जो लोग आज सुभाष के नाम पर छाती पीट रहे हैं, उन्होंने सुभाष बोस का ठीक से विश्लेषण नहीं किया है। कुछ लोग ऐसे हैं जो समझते हैं कि सुभाष बोस को जाना नहीं चाहिए था भारत से, यही लड़ना चाहिए था। निश्चित रूप से लड़ना चाहिए था, या आप हम सब कहेंगे, लेकिन सुभाष बोस निकाले गए हैं कांग्रेस से, कलकत्ता में निकाले गए हैं, और निकाले जाने, जब उनको निकाला गया है उसके पहले की जो कहानी है, उस कहानी की डिटेल्स जितने सुंदर तरीके से इन उपन्यासों में आई है, यशपाल के उपन्यास में और भगवती चंद्र वर्मा के उपन्यास में, उसने मुझे एक इतिहासकार के रूप में चकित किया है। बलिया में, आजमगढ़ में और तमाम जगहों में जो डिटेल्स मेरे सामने आई हैं, मैं एक बहुत ही जितने जो बड़े इतिहासकार नहीं माने जाते होंगे, अजय मिश्रा जी की किताब रिसेंटली मैं पढ़ रहा था और मैंने देखा कि जो डिटेल्स इस लोकल हिस्टोरियन ने आर्काइव से उठा के रखे हैं, वो डिटेल्स जो है यशपाल की किताब उपन्यास में वर्णन से इतने मिलते जुलते हैं, जैसे लगता है कि एक ही सोर्स से दोनों ने लिखा है। यशपाल की कहानी, भगवती चंद्र वर्मा की कहानी, ये कहानियां कहती हैं कि जो थोड़े समय का जो पीरियड था जिसमें कि ये कहा गया कि ये कांग्रेस ने शुरू किया था, उसके बाद की जो करुण कहानी है, उस करुण कहानी का यथार्थ उपन्यासों में तो है लेकिन इतिहास में मिसिंग है। और ये जो ये जो समय है, इसको आप किसी भी उस तरह की चर्चा से ढक नहीं सकते हैं कि वो जेल से भागे थे, नेपाल में गए थे, नेपाल में जाके क्या किया था। टेल द स्टोरी, आजाद दस्ते की स्टोरी कहिए और उस स्टोरी को मिलाइए ये रेणु की कहानी से, उसको मिलाइए नागार्जुन के उपन्यासों की कहानी से, तब आप देखिएगा इन ऑल्टरनेटिव हिस्ट्री इज पॉसिबल ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ these novels and local accounts. And that is where I think I should conclude, but not before I say 2-3 lines on 1948. Anybody could have said that I could have ended the story on 1942 or even 1947. I'm not going into the details of partition. I'm not going into the inviting discussion point which has been raised by Guru Dutt. What had happened in Punjab between March and August is something on which we do not talk about. Guru Dutt may be a third grade of novelist, but he's raising certain issues which have something to do with Yashpal's novel of Jhutha Sach also. And you will, if you compare these two novels, you will find large number of similarities between these two novels, large number of similarities. And this is where I think the historian has to come in. He may be a third grade writer, he may be a second grade novelist, he may be a completely communal man, but he was documenting something which is extraordinarily very similar to the novel of with the novel of Yashpal, a communist writer. So there is something on which we need to work on, and that is where I think we can understand why so many people were so hurt by Gandhi's certain stance in 1948. 1940 August to 90, I mean, in between August and January 48. Many people were hurt, and many people were not liking what Gandhi had been saying. And this is where, I mean, there were people who had been saying it in a very violent manner, very communal manner, but this resentment against certain kind of understanding of Congress leadership had been there. People were against what Congress was trying to do. So I would, at the end, I would say that all these I'm saying basically from the novel's descriptions and some of the things which have been said, like historians. These people have written in a very systematic manner. I in fact request all my friends to take these novelists not merely as fiction writers who were trying to tell us stories. These stories are the stories of the time, and these stories are the political stories also. And they were the participant of the process. They were the people who had been very sensitive about it, and therefore I would humbly request you not to be provoked by some of the things I have said, but to join me in reading those books and tell me if I have gone wrong on understanding what these writers had to say about the political complex story of the time, which shapes our understanding of what is national movement, what is Hindu communal relationship, Hindu Muslim relationship, how partition took place, and what are those areas about which we keep on debating and still unable to find answers. We still are talking about. I'm sure my friends would be taking these novels not merely as imaginations, but also imaginations with an eye to the historical development. I would be happy to answer if there is any query, any question. And I'm once again, I am thankful to Nehru Memorial Museum and Library for giving me an opportunity to say things which I was desperate to say before a lovely crowd and very interesting crowd. I hope I hope I have made some sense, or I could say a few things which at least show my discomfort with certain kind of readings, particular kind of readings, and I request you to move beyond that frame and let us put on table something which can invite us to new directions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Patel, for your very interesting and thought-provoking lecture. If there are any very brief questions, they are welcome. I don't think there are any questions as of. Okay, go ahead, Apurva.
Apurva has to unmute. Apurva has
Unmute yourself.
she has raised her hand, but yeah. Apurva Chatterjee, yeah. I don't know.
Please go ahead. Ask your question.
It is quite possible that she has been unmuted from the organizer side. Therefore, she.
Well, I think let her type her question. Is there any other question? We'll take that question later. Is there any other question as of now? No. Well, so let us use this time for some of my own questions and comments on this lecture by Professor Patel. Hitendra ji, you start your lecture by citing the frame used by Perry Anderson, the Indian ideology. And this frame of Indian ideology in which, he has written those essays in which his tone is totally denunciatory and polemical about entire Indian national movement. I mean, what is the relevance and usefulness of Perry Anderson's Indian ideology frame in any genuine analysis of Indian national movement? I really fail to understand. It shows his deep discomfort with the fact that Indians succeeded in gaining independence. There is a very important school of thought in the West, even now, who are very, very uncomfortable with Indian independence movement and the fact that India was able to get freedom. Now, I'm not saying they are consciously doing this, but certainly this school has been there. And Perry Anderson's denunciation of the freedom struggle and what India did in the ensuing decades after independence certainly cannot be regarded as a serious scholarly work. It's more of a polemical and rhetorical kind of narrative that he has created. Secondly, you see, from your lecture, one gets the impression that Gandhi became the leader of Indian freedom struggle as a result of conspiracy and manipulation. I mean, you don't use those words, but it's quite clear that this is what the meaning is, that Gandhi, Tilak was uncomfortable with Gandhi. This is well known that Tilak was uncomfortable with certain positions of Gandhi. And these things Gandhi owned up even in his autobiography, that he had strong differences with Tilak, and how then I think in the Nagpur session, how they finally agreed, and whether it was Nagpur or Calcutta, I don't remember right now. And then this other thing about Gandhi using the crowd factor and humiliating people like Jinnah. Was it not Jinnah himself who was uncomfortable with the crowd? The fact is that all over the world, whenever you have the rise of a great mass leader, the fact is that he will be supported by the masses, and those who are not mass leaders will have to either come with the leader, or they will have to fall aside. What third option is available? So the fact is that if people were supporting Gandhi in such large numbers, shouldn't we see that as a natural development, as part of the rise of a mass leader, in which people who disagree with him, might fall aside, rather than as a result of some sort of, maneuvering or manipulation, or some concerted plan on the part of somebody. And then again, you raise this question about, you cite some historians saying that it was Gandhi bringing religion into politics, which probably sowed the seeds of partition in India. Whereas the fact is that the seeds of partition were sown much earlier, probably with, Sayyid Ahmad Khan, when he gave the two-nation theory. And of course, separate electorate for Muslims. And it was a part of the British policy, obviously, to divide and rule. So no one factor can be cited as far as partition is concerned. But to say that Gandhi brought religion into politics, this seems to be, rather problematic to me, because the fact is that the masses were religious in India. Till 1920, Congress movement was not a political movement. It was an armchair movement. So it could afford to be, away from religion. It could afford to distance itself from religion. But once it became a mass movement under Gandhi, there was no way that India's civilizational, cultural, and religious heritage could be completely ignored, and it could become a so-called, secular mobilization of people. Because mobilization of people depends upon, the symbols on which mobilization of a society or mobilization of a people happens, ultimately depends upon the nature of that society. And Gandhi reflected that society much better than anybody else. So, whether it led to communalism, communal riots, etc., is another question altogether. But the fact is that if you wanted to make it a mass movement, you had to bring in people, and people were religious. Their symbols, were all religious in some sense or the other. So how could we separate it? And lastly, I would like to say there are so many important novelists that you are leaving out. For example, of course, the greatest novelist Premchand you have left out. Then, Jaishankar Prasad wrote many novels. Even Nirala has written some, relatively small novels. Hajari Prasad Dwivedi has written novels. Many other people have written novels. Have you looked into them also?
Great. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, definitely.
I can see here many people raising hands, and some of them have asked many questions, but your question should be taken with all seriousness, sir. And I'm really delighted that you have come up with these comments. And these are the standard comments which may come from a well-trained historian and possibly well-intentioned historian also. Thank you for those interesting observations. But sir, I would like you to I'd like to draw your attention to two things. One is that yes, there were issues even earlier, and you have rightly pointed out Sir Syed Ahmad Khan's time and thereafter also. Even pan-Islamist efforts were there, Hindu Sabha, Mahasabha, etc. All these things were going on. But what Gandhi did is most important, because in that politics, which you have called armchair politics, in that politics, bringing religion was something very extraordinary. And this baffled even Motilal Nehru. and you are familiar with that. This coming of uh, mullahs into politics was possible because of Gandhi, and many people were raising objection to that. If you read Lala Lajpat Rai's objection and many others, so uh, there was a difference which Gandhi brought in. Obviously, he didn't want it to lead the way it actually led to, and it was a well-intentioned way. I believe Gandhi wanted Hindu-Muslim solidarity, and you are right that he was emerging as a leader, and therefore some leaders could go. I mean, could be sidelined in a natural process. Here lies my submission that it was not that. You have referred to autobiography. In that autobiography, and I have read that very carefully, that passage, Gandhi's support is coming from Malaviya, even Jinnah, and later on, Chittaranjan Das joined in. And this joining comes in 20s, middle of the 20s. And this is where Jawaharlal Nehru has written, the real Gandhi era began. And that is the point where Gandhi really becomes the master of Congress. Before that, there was some kind of contest going on. Even there was an attempt by Abani Mukherjee and M.N. Roy and other leftist groups to influence Chittaranjan Das, so that Chittaranjan Das could go against Gandhi and raise a different kind of voice within the Congress. That didn't happen, and that's a different story altogether. My point is that this coming of Gandhi, I'm not suggesting that it was a conspiracy. It was not a conspiracy. But there were factors which contributed to the rise of Gandhi, and among those contributory factors, I would like, on the basis of my reading of these novels, the role of crowd, the role of Muslims. And that is where this is very significant. I mean, you may edit it out and say that it was a very natural kind of thing and Gandhi came and everybody joined in. It was not a smooth affair at all. This was a very complicated affair. And on the basis of these readings, I am just inviting eminent people or young people to look into these details. Where are the factors which can tell us or add to the understanding of it? And this was not a very smooth affair, and this was not very normal and natural. And even when somebody like Motilal Nehru, I mean, if I could add something to that, I mean, I'm not contesting your claims. I'm not taking out the credit of Gandhi. What I'm suggesting is that as a historian, when we look back and see the entire process, we must not edit out certain uncomfortable facts. I have raised that question of editing out 3 paragraphs of that president's speech of Muhammad Ali, which got registered in a novel because of the possibility of conversion of Dalits to Muslim could alter the political equation dramatically. There must be some reasons for that editing out. And 3 dots are there. Only 3 dots, but behind those 3 dots, there is a story, and that story is not found easily in the historian's text. This is where I think I would like to bring in political novels. Now, coming to the second part of your comment, leaving out Premchand is not the important thing. I am really concentrating on the political story. And I'm referring to those novelists who wrote in a very systematic manner. I give an example. Somebody has started the story from 1857. Somebody has started it from 1917. So these are the people who actually have in mind the history of the period, and they have put it in such a way that 15 years in one novel, then next 10 years in another novel. So in a way, they were telling the history of the time. And therefore, there is another question from Apurva Chatterjee, that what is political novel? And that is where I think I can only pick those novelists who actually try to tell the political story. Okay, on the basis of those novels, which is primarily telling the political story. Although story is there, political story is a significant thing, and that is where I think I have chosen only those novelists who had primarily targeted the political history of the period rather than uh, uh, other things. So Premchand could be brought in. Somebody more capable can join in. Somebody can. I have done some work on Nirala's thing. There are others. There are many others, but and I think your suggestion is welcome, that somebody more capable can join in and bring some new things in. We all are doing that.
All
I'm
right.
bringing. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Naren Shukla, please go ahead with your question. शुक्ला जी, प्लीज गो अहेड विथ योर क्वेश्चन.
मेरी आवाज आ रही है सर?
हाँ, बोलिए
सर. आप दोनों का बहुत स्वागत है, हितेन पटेल सर का एक शानदार लेक्चर के लिए. और मैं थोड़ी देर में जुड़ पाया और काफ़ी हिस्सा नहीं सुन पाया. हो सकता है कि जो मैं बात करने जा रहा हूँ वो उसका उत्तर आया हो, मुझे क्षमा कीजिएगा. हालांकि जो प्रश्न बना है वो आपके सर के प्रश्न से और आपके उत्तर से ही है. एक तो एक ऑब्जर्वेशन है कि मुझको लगता है कि जो सांप्रदायिकता की जो शुरुआत हो रही है या बढ़ रही है, वो उसका सबसे महत्वपूर्ण पहला पड़ाव हिंदी उर्दू विवाद को अगर छोड़ दें तो बंग भंग और स्वदेशी का समय है, जहाँ पर दोनों हिंदू और मुस्लिम दोनों एक राजनीतिक मामले पर अलग विचार रख रहे हैं, एक बड़ा. और खासकर स्वदेशी में, जहाँ पर बंगाल में, जहाँ बेचने वाले सामान ज़्यादातर मुस्लिम वर्ग थे और खरीदने वाले हिंदू थे, तो उसमें जो रोका टाकी लगी और काफ़ी ज़्यादा झगड़े हुए और स्वयंसेवकों के दल और तमाम खड़े हुए, वो एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण चीज़ थी जो जिसमें जो लोकल झगड़े थे हिंदू और मुसलमान को, उसको पैन इंडिया किया. तो मुझको ये लगता है कि वो एक बड़ा पड़ाव था. दूसरे जो हितेन पटेल सर ने कहा कि मौलवियों को जोड़ना, ये एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण चीज़ थी, क्योंकि मौलवी फतवा जारी कर सकते थे और गांधी जी ने उनको जोड़ा, तो उनको इससे बरी नहीं किया जा सकता, क्योंकि एक बार खिलाफत के जाने के बाद अगर कोई देश का कोई प्रश्न होता उनको जोड़ने का, तो वो मुश्किल होता. मैं जो प्रश्न पूछना चाह रहा था, मेरे मन में अभी अभी जन्मा है और कुछ थोड़ा बहुत पहले से भी परेशान करता था कि गांधी जी को मास ने लीडर के तौर पर खोजा या लीडर ने मास क्रिएट किया. अगर ये इस तरह से इसको देखें कि गांधी आ रहे हैं और जितना मैं देख पा रहा हूँ 1919 के पहले 1916, 17, 18 एक मास क्रिएट कर चुके हैं लोग, बंगाल में भी और तिलक भी. और तिलक को 1 अगस्त को जब इनकी मृत्यु हो रही है, तो 2 अगस्त को गोरखपुर जैसी जगह से करीब 2,500 लोग स्वदेश ब्रज से निकलते हैं और उस मातमी जुलूस में होते हैं. तो एक मास स्वतंत्रता आंदोलन से या जो भी राजनीतिक आंदोलन चल रहा है उससे जुड़ रहा है, उसको एक लीडर चाहिए. तो मास लीडर खोज रहा है या एक लीडर कहीं से बन के आ रहा है, वो मास क्रिएट कर रहा है. इस पर मैं आपके विचार जानना चाहता हूँ. थैंक यू सर.
थैंक यू नरेंद्र जी. आपने जो सवाल पूछा है बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट है और उसका एक हिस्सा मेरे कंसर्न से ज्यादा जुड़ता है, उसी पर रिस्पॉन्ड करना चाहूंगा. जवाहरलाल नेहरू की जो ऑटोबायोग्राफी है उसमें एक बड़ा दिलचस्प प्रसंग है। उसमें वो कहते हैं कि मैं कैसे कांग्रेस किसान की राजनीति से जुड़ा। उसमें कहते हैं कि मैं मसूरी में अपने माँ और बीवी के साथ एक होटल में रुका हुआ था और संयोग से उनके ऊपर जो है कुछ पाबंदियां आ गई और उसके कारण उनको लौटना पड़ा और उस पाबंदी लगी तो उनको इलाहाबाद लौटना पड़ा। इसी बीच में कुछ लोग वहां आ गए और उन्होंने जिद की कि हमारे यहाँ चलिए, हमारे यहाँ किसान आंदोलन चल रहा है और आपकी नेतृत्व की जरूरत है। तो वो कहते हैं कि मैं संयोग से, बहुत संयोग से, अगर वो मुझे मेरे ऊपर पाबंदी नहीं होती तो मैं मसूरी में होता। मैं संयोग से इलाहाबाद में था और मैं संयोग से वहां उनसे मिला और मैं वहां से चला गया। अब मुझे, और 3 दिन वो रहे थे वहां पर। बाबा रामचंद्र को उन्होंने कमेंट किया है और बहुत सारी दिलचस्प बातें उस अध्याय में है, जिसमें एक ये भी है कि राजनीति 1936 में लिख रहे हैं वो, ये आपके इंटरेस्ट का हो सकता है कि 1936 में वो लिख रहे हैं कि 1920 में सारी राजनीति मिडिल क्लास की राजनीति थी और आज भी है। 1936 में लिख रहे हैं जवाहरलाल नेहरू, आज भी है, चाहे वो मॉडरेट लीडर हो और या टेररिस्ट लीडर हो, सभी लोग मिडिल क्लास की राजनीति ही कर रहे हैं। 36 में लिख रहे हैं। लेकिन जो इंटरेस्टिंग बात है वो ये है कि यही कहानी बिल्कुल इसी तरह से पीढ़ियां में आई है, जिसमें कि नागर जी ने जवाहरलाल नेहरू के दोस्त रहे एक कैरेक्टर को उसमें रखा है, जो जवाहरलाल नेहरू के सहयोगी हैं, टंडन जी, और वो उनके साथ पढ़े हुए हैं। ये टंडन जी वो पुरुषोत्तम दास टंडन नहीं है, ये टंडन है पीढ़िया के एक पात्र हैं और वो 1942 में गोली खाकर मरे हैं। ये इनका पात्र है। तो जब वो ये लोग किसान लोग पहुंचते हैं आनंद भवन, तो आनंद भवन से फिर उनको ले जाया जाता है और वो कहानी उस उपन्यास में है। तो जो कहानी ऑटोबायोग्राफी में है और जो उपन्यास में है उसके बीच में एक कंटिन्यूअम है। और दिलचस्प बात यह है कि इसमें हमको चाहे तो हम ये कह सकते हैं, और अगर आप दोनों को मिला के देखिएगा तो एक कोई इतिहासकार ये कह सकता है कि ये एक्चुअली पहले से ही चल रहा था, जिसमें कि नेहरू का आना एक संयोग था। और दूसरी तरफ अगर आप इधर से देखेंगे तो आपको लगेगा कि इन्होंने जाकर के उसको इंस्पायर किया। यशपाल की किताब में ये बहुत स्पष्ट है, ये बहुत स्पष्ट है कि परिस्थितियां तैयार थीं, लीडर का इंतजार था। यशपाल का उपन्यास ये हमको कहता है कि परिस्थितियां बहुत विकट थी, बहुत खराब थी परिस्थितियां, और उस समय उनको ऐसा नेता चाहिए था जो उसको स्वर दे सके। और वो स्वर गांधी जी देते हुए दिखलाई दिए, लेकिन वो कुछ समय के बाद उस पॉलिटिक्स में चले गए जिस पॉलिटिक्स को एक तरह से मिडिल क्लास पॉलिटिक्स ही कहा जाता है और नेशनल लेवल पे। तो वो उसमें यशपाल कहते हैं कि वो गांधी फिर दोबारा दिखाई नहीं दिया, जो रेडिकल गांधी था वो फिर दोबारा दिखाई नहीं दिया। कई और इतिहासकारों ने लिखा है कि वो उस गांधी का फिर से आगमन 1942 में फिर थोड़े समय के लिए हुआ था और फिर 48 में थोड़े समय के लिए हुआ था। लेकिन वो जो गांधी थे जिन्होंने 1 साल में आजादी दिलाने का वादा किया था, 1 साल में देंगे आजादी, और सब लोग उम्मीद कर रहे थे कि हाँ ऐसा हो भी सकता है, वो गांधी फिर आया नहीं। ये जो आपका सवाल है, इस सवाल का कोई उत्तर ना आज है ना कल होगा। ये आपके इंटरप्रिटेशन पर निर्भर है कि इतिहासकार के रूप में आप इसको किस तरह से देखते हैं। मेरी व्यक्तिगत राय अगर आप पूछें तो मैं कहूंगा कि दुनिया का कोई भी पात्र, कोई भी नेता अपने समय के सवालों से जुड़कर ही बड़ा नेता बना होता है, इसीलिए सवाल ही ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण होते हैं। मैं अगर चाहूं, मैं फिर से चाहूंगा 1942 के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में जो जवाहरलाल नेहरू ने कहा था कि कोई भी नेता अपने समय के सवालों के साथ ही खड़ा हो सकता है। सवालों को वो खड़ा कर पाए, ये बहुत मुश्किल है। इसलिए इतिहासकार के रूप में मेरी ये मान्यता है कि वो सवाल ही थे, वो परिस्थितियां ही थी जिसने कि इस तरह के एक नेता का आह्वान किया था, और उसमें कतिपय कारणों से गांधी जी फिट बैठते थे, इसलिए गांधी आए। गांधी का आना उस समय भारत की मांग थी, इसलिए गांधी आ सके। अब गांधी ने आकर क्या किया, ये हम लोगों के लिए आलोचना का विषय हो सकता है।
Thank you very much, Professor Patel. I think we have run completely out of time now, so we can't take any more questions. I thank all members of the audience for their participation in the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.